This is Patrick Motes, sports writer for the Bell Ringer and track and cross country athlete at Augusta University, with another edition of the Sports Squad from Bell Ringer Phoenix Media. Today on the Sports Squad, we will talk about AU women's and men's basketball, Nick Saban's retirement and the impacts it will have on the college football landscape, thoughts on the NFL playoffs after Super Wild Card Weekend, and the potential changes in store for the Atlanta Falcons, and wrapping up with our new segment, Yes, No, Maybe, where we make some quirky predictions. The panel today includes Head of Department, Dr. David Bulla. Dr. Bulla, welcome in today.
Thank you, Patrick. Happy New Year. I don't think we've talked once since then.
Yeah, we have talked once since then. But yeah, we got a lot to cover today, so let's dive in.
It seems like a month.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the men's basketball. We'll open up with them. They're traveling down to Flagler tonight to play at 7:30. They lost to Aiken over the weekend at home. So what does it mean that that they need to get things back on track, and how do they do that tonight on the road?
Yeah, they're in a four-way tie for sixth, and that's a very unusual place for a Dip Mitra's team to be in the Peach Belt after 4 games. They're 1-3. Go back to that Aiken game really briefly, Patrick. It was 83-70. It was probably not quite that close. Justin Gray, who's down covering the game in Flagler in St. Augustine, Florida today, would probably confirm that. But there were some good things. We'll go through the bad thing first. Aiken just lit it up. They shot 52% overall, 52% on threes, and they shoot a lot of threes. They were 13-25, and that really was the difference in the game. The good things for the Jaguars were, one, Max Madison, the center, who actually didn't started Timmy Sellers. Max played great in the second half. He didn't miss a shot. He was really unstoppable, and he was really getting pushed around a lot by the 2 guys guarding him for the Pacers. He probably could have fouled both of them out. I think if Dip had been there, nothing against Zach Teakum, great assistant coach, but he was coaching because Dip and his wife, Heather Mitras, were at Tyvez Monroe's funeral up in D.C. And but if Dip had been there, I believe they would have had both of those guys fouling out. I mean, they literally were just trying to push Max everywhere, and Max stood his ground. He had nice touch. Didn't show that in the first half, but he played really well in the second half. I think the other thing is there, Jaquez Kirby had a wonderful game, 21 points, about 10 boards. With 8, maybe 9. He didn't shoot really well, but he made a 3 to start the game, so they were ahead right at the beginning, and then Aiken went a little bit of a run, and it stayed 4 or 5 points. Then it went up to like 9, and then the Jaguars got it back down to 5 with about 5 minutes left in the half.
Yeah, so within reach.
And then that's when the USC Aiken went crazy, and they had about a 15-point lead at halftime. So, and really, it got it down manageable. They got it down like 8 a couple times. The defense was a lot better in the second half, I think, especially guarding those threes. And then Aiken started to kind of milk the clock, and it wasn't really working. The problem was we really didn't have any answers. And so it just never got reasonable enough to say. The gym got loud a few times there in the second half, but it never got to a point where you say, "Oh, we're going to catch them." So
right,
and they're in second place. They're one of the 3 best teams, I think, in the conference right now. So shout out to them. But I think the other thing is that Dip, who of course wasn't there and has watched the game on tape, he knows that the biggest liability this team has is defense. Offensively, they're pretty good. Look at this.
They're dropping a lot of points a game and stuff. Yeah,
Dimitri Gardner averages 16.4, David Vitti 15.6, Kirby 14.0, 14.6, and Max 14.2 plus 11 rebounds. Those are good stats.
Yeah, those are great stats.
But
it seems like the problem that they're having in the games that they are losing kind of by a lot, or even close to the Land Sharks a couple weeks ago, it seems like they're having trouble guarding the perimeter on that 3-point line and stuff. And like if they're USCB shot well from that 3-point range, and Aiken shot again another elite 3-point.
And Columbus State did too.
Yeah, so it seems like if they can kind of clean that up, even like not even like bring it down drastically, just clean it up just a little bit. I think that
They got to get those shooting percentages around 40.
Because they've proven that they can score points. They've proven that they have weapons on offense, and that, you know, at this point in their season, they can score points, and which I think is offensively a pretty good position to be in, because if you're with your team right now and the experience level and the coaching that they have and the more developing they have, if they're already putting up this amount of points, you get to the end of the season, you know, this is looking like a pretty dangerous team going into the playoffs and the tournament and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say one other thing. You know, Chris Britt, of course, left the team right before the season started. He played in a couple of the exhibitions. But John St. Germain started on Saturday, the freshman from Charlottesville, Virginia. He's very steady, makes good decisions. And then Zaire Edwards spelled him. So they platoon. Zaire's from Savannah, great prep player here in Georgia. Zaire is a tough athlete. He and Jaquez are Division I caliber when it comes to defense. So he played wonderful defense. And he was, I think, one of the reasons they didn't shoot as well in the second half from three. You know, we also had a little trouble with number 12. He scored, really had a little left-handed hook that never really learned how to guard. But I think there's some good signs, but there has to be a turning point. So tonight at Flagler is also struggling a little bit. They're 1-3. So this is a toss-up. I don't know what to expect. If Dip told me yesterday that he put a lot of emphasis on defense. He said, I went a little Bobby Knight on him on Sunday and Monday, a lot of defensive drills. If that happens, like I said, if they can get it down around 40% instead of 52%, I think they can win tonight. But it is on the road. They're 1-4 on the road. The two losses that really hurt, that one at USC Beaufort, where they lost by 2, 114-112.
They're going to want that one's going to sit with them for a while. They're going to want that game back.
And the Columbus State's a little more reasonable because Columbus State, it went overtime. They were behind. The AU was behind and came back. Vidi helped a wonderful comeback, just came up short, and Vidi made a big 3 at the end to force the overtime. So there's some good signs. It's not like
the spark
total
is there.
despair.
Yeah.
There's no total despair here.
The spark is there.
And
how can they finish?
You know, you were mentioning Georgia earlier before we came on the air. The Georgia men are playing really well, and sometimes you have to go through some stuff, and they did. You know, they didn't do very well in Crean. The new coach's first year was so-so, but I think they've turned a corner. I think AU in the next 4 games can turn a corner. Tonight at Flagler, tough one on Saturday at Georgia Southwestern. The 2 biggest home games of the season are next week. They play Lander on Wednesday. Lander's tied for first right now.
And then
they play North Georgia, who's also tied for first. So back-to-back first-place teams.
Even if you win one of those, you
win one and play well both games.
Yeah, if you win 2, you're sitting right. You're looking really good, and I think that would be huge. And I think either a win tonight would be great regardless. I think also a tough loss. It would hurt tonight on the road, but I think that if they could get a win tonight, that would really kind of get some momentum swinging in before they kind of hit the road a little bit.
Yeah.
But Lander and North Georgia coming in, I know that the Wednesday one at Lander is the Greek life one, and then that Saturday one is the military appreciation one. So there should hopefully be a lot of crowds there and stuff like that too, because we know that UNG can play some physical basketball as well as Lander. You
know, I think another thing about Saturday's game, I mentioned this to my son several times and to Justin, school had not started. I mean, it had started back, but then we all went away for the weekend, so we did not have we had a decent crowd because we were playing Aiken. But normally we play Aiken, you get close to 1,500 to 2,000. I hated the fact that it was scheduled then.
It was poorly scheduled, I agree.
Well, I don't know. The Peach Belt probably does the scheduling, not the teams.
Yeah, I mean, but I can't imagine Dip would be like, or the teams be like, let's put this one, our arch rival up the road on the weekend that probably a lot of people went home or something. Or
there were a lot of athletes there, and they were loud, especially in the second half. They got loud. But USC Aiken fans, there was a whole quarter of Christenberry Fieldhouse. They were there, and you expect that with them. They come.
They travel well.
We go up there too. So anyway, we didn't give them as good a game as AU didn't give them as good a game as they wanted to, but there were some good signs, and let's see what happens tonight. Yeah, I completely agree. You're listening to the Sports Squad from Bell Ringer Phoenix Media. So next up, we're going to kind of go back into basketball, but this side on the women's side. So the women's were kind of on a little bit of a slump there. They were losing a couple games in a row, but they are back on their hot streak. They are 4-0 in PBC play overall. They've won their last couple games straight. So, and they're also going into Flagler tonight to play. So what do they have to do to keep this going? I mean, it seems like they've got maybe their pieces back in play. The right people are back. I think that
there's a good chance they come out there with the win tonight.
Right, I agree. Well, Flagler's 1-3 and 6-8 overall. This is 6 straight in a row with a win over Aiken on Saturday, 75-61.
A dominant win, right?
Dominant win. Kennedy Manning had 17, I believe. Autumn Phillips had 12, and Tamia Alford had 10. Let's see, Molly, what's Molly's last name? I forgot. She had 10 also, backup center. So they dominated in the paint in that game against Aiken. I think the big thing is Autumn Phillips had a couple of games where she was away for family matters. She's come back. When you have a good inside player like Kennedy, who's been dominant, really the dominant player in the program the last 4 years, and then you have a good outside shooter like Autumn, suddenly you got good inside, outside, and then Alford's very consistent with her scoring. But what Coach told me, we talked to Coach Stewart at halftime of the men's game, is that they're really playing good defense, the Jaguar. So if they keep that up tonight and they can hold Flagler, 35% or lower, and have a net positive for Augusta on turnovers and dominate the boards with Kennedy Manning, I think that they'll win tonight. Again, I think for them, they should get a W tonight. I don't want to put the curse on them, but they should, which would be 7 in a row, 5-0 start. Lander's coming next Wednesday. Lander is tied with them for first. North is second, 1 game behind. So next week's big for the women too. And in the past, when both Coach Green, Millette Green, who's now an assistant at Wake Forest, and Coach Stewart, Celeste Stewart, the current coach, have had good teams, it seems like North Georgia has always been the team that sort of knocks them off their pedestal a little bit. So, and Lander obviously is very good. So next week's going to be big. Next week, I think for our women is going to kind of like be those Lander games for the volleyball team.
That's that week that's really going to show that not only themselves but the rest of the conference and the audience, like, what is this team really made of and how far can they actually go? And having the home field advantage will serve them very well.
Right.
But coming with those two teams coming in, I absolutely agree. Like, that is their gauntlet. They can get through that gauntlet. That's only going to make them that much better. But I think that what they can rely on is how well that they've been playing cohesively.
That's right.
But also, it was at the beginning of the season. Teams change, teams develop, but they beat Wingate, and that's something that you don't want to completely be like, okay, we got this. But you can take that confidence and really use that to your advantage. If we can go out there and beat them, who says we can't go beat this team and both of them? So
Wingate and Anderson both are, I think, bode well for the Southeast regionals. And there's a long ways to go before they get there. But right now, I would think they would be in, and they just they really need to sustain it. We've talked about this a million times. Momentum's so big in sports. Keep that momentum going. Believe in yourself. I definitely see a sense of confidence it was kind of growing there last year, I think. There were elements of that last year where you're really starting to see it this year. And you got to give Coach Stewart credit. She's really done a good job. I think they like playing for her. They do a lot of community service. That chemistry is there. It's kind of like you guys on the cross-country team. Y'all have it.
Yeah, the chemistry, the family environment seems definitely to be there. So we're really glad to see them really just hitting their stride right now too. So hopefully they can go get the win tonight down at Flagler and keep that momentum going. You're listening to the Sports Squad from Bell Ringer Phoenix Media. So transitioning into the world of sports now, we're kind of branching out from AU. So I'm sure everybody knows at this point, Nick Saban has retired. Arguably, he's the greatest coach of all time.
Well, some people in Alabama might say Bear, so it's Bear Bryant. It's close.
It's close. Yeah. It's up for debate.
6 versus 7
But if we're going to go modern
titles.
history,
yes,
he's definitely the greatest.
Because Bears teams sometimes would win national titles with 8-2 records because they voted on it, and they had two. You had the AP and the UPI poll, and there were sometimes, like in the last time Washington won it, I think it was the same year Tech claimed they won it, 90 or 91. Those days are over, so forever.
So he's retired. They have brought in, for those who don't know, Kalen DeBar. He was the former head coach at Washington who just took his team to the national championship and lost to Michigan this year. A lot of people were saying, leading up to this hire, his name was being thrown around in there, but he was kind of on the bottom end of it, according to analysts and others. I didn't think that was really great. They were saying Dan Lanning was going to come back. I wasn't buying that. He's happy at Oregon. He has built that program up. I mean, it's Oregon. You have everything you need there and then some.
Right.
They were saying Sarkisian might come back because they were talking about how when Saban was there and he was there, he wanted Sark to take over, but Sark took the job at Texas, and he just took them to the Sugar Bowl this year.
Right.
And he's got his quarterback coming back and more players. So he's not
got Manning, Manning coming up too.
He's got little Manning too, yeah. And then they were saying maybe Mike Norvell, and that would have been probably the other probable one that I would say.
Yeah.
But he signed a new contract for Florida State. He's clearly very invested there. So I think that's great for the college football landscape.
I think Dabo Swinney also probably was in the running at some point.
I saw a couple things there, but I was like, I don't think they're going to go get Dabo just because of the way that his program has been playing the past couple years. They haven't been quite as dominant as they have been. So I think
that can come back.
And easily can. He's not a bad coach at all. He's a phenomenal coach.
The 12-team playoff's going to help those ACC teams, I think.
So I think that they got a great hire. I think they got a great guy. I knew, I was watching 247 Sports from CBS and with Late Kick Josh, and he was saying people think that they're just now starting this. No, they've rounded third, and he was right on the money with that one, saying they knew who they were going to bring in and stuff like that too. And I just want to get your thoughts on what you think about that.
Well, first of all, I do want to go back and talk about Nick Saban. And I went to the University of Florida for my PhD and was there from 2001 to 2004. In 2001, Florida, Tennessee, and LSU all had great teams, and Tennessee and Florida was supposed to play the week of 9/11, and it got moved back to December. So they played in Gainesville. I think it was December 1st. Mm-hmm. I went to the game. I remember exactly where I was in the stadium. And Tennessee, I think the final score was 35-31. Jabbar Gaffney, they were in Spurrier, loved odd plays. And he had ran this play at the end of the second quarter when Florida had made a nice comeback. And Jabbar Gaffney, the wide receiver, had, I think it was Jaquez. Was it Jaquez? No, who was it? I can't remember who it was. It was Taylor, wide open in the end zone. And he just overthrew it. And they ended up losing. They ran out of time at the end. So Tennessee won, and everybody's like, oh, Tennessee's going to win the SEC title game in Atlanta because Florida had destroyed LSU down in Baton Rouge a couple of weeks after 9/11. And in that game, Rex Grossman just went crazy. Mm-hmm. But anyway, no, Saban is a wonderful game coach, as you well know. And he won that game, and then they went on and won the national. They won the BCS game. So they won the national title, and then he tried the Dolphins. Same thing Spurrier tried the Redskins. It didn't work. And then he came back. And I remember when I was at a meeting with a guy who's a teacher, a fellow journalism professor at Alabama, and he's like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I said, I guarantee you it will work. Yeah, because the guy is so organized. I remember him at Michigan State, and it's not an easy place to coach. Mm-hmm. And he did a fantastic job there, which meant 8-3 seasons, but that was good at Michigan State. And the Dolphins, you can just go off Spurrier, Meyer, Saban. It just rarely works, right?
It does. It's hard.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Kirby is smart to say no. Now, Jim Harbaugh may be another story because he's done it before.
He's done it.
But
he's
anyway,
definitely going in, and we'll get to that later.
Saban's won 6 at Alabama, and there was a time there when you were young when it looked like every year they were going to win it, right?
Well, it did, and every year they were in it. Basically,
they were in it every year.
It was like the New England Patriots.
Right.
They're basically in it every year. Yeah. Are they going to win it or not? And when they won back-to-back, that was unheard of. Yeah. It is. It's still unheard of.
Yeah, and I do think that when you're 72, you're probably pretty ready to retire. But I also think we've seen this slew of coaches who are great coaches. It kind of started with Roy Williams at North Carolina in basketball, Krzyzewski, even Jay Wright at Villanova. And of course, Bam kind of got run out at Syracuse. Mm-hmm. But I kind of think this is a young man's game. You got to be Kirby or Lane Kiffin to handle all of this stuff.
The mumbo jumbo that is going on.
And that's a whole other podcast.
That's
Patrick.
Something we could spend 3 hours on.
But
debating.
I do agree with you. I think DeBoer is a wonderful hire. I've been paying attention to Washington only because
they had such a phenomenal
Michael Penix used to be at Indiana, which was where I got my master's degree. He led Indiana to the greatest victory in 40 years when they beat Penn State in COVID year. It was a great game. He put the ball across and hit the pylon on the last play of the game.
I mean,
Unbelievable play.
It's
Either you win it or you lose it.
Yeah,
and they actually were really good that year. Indiana was. I mean, they crushed Michigan that year. Yeah, but anyway, and Penix is a wonderful player. But they reminded me of like a Utah of last year, pretty tough team with a great quarterback.
Yep.
And they got manhandled in the line against Michigan. Other than that, they won everything they needed to win.
Yeah, that was a rough game for them. I definitely think that just with Michigan's track record and being those playoffs games before. But I have to hand it to, DeBoer because he's only there for 2 years.
Right.
And he won both Pac-12 Coach of the Year for that.
Right. And he deserved it.
He did, absolutely. And taking his team in to the national championship in his second year, I mean, that definitely says that he's a winner.
Yeah.
So now,
the impact is interesting. And I think one of the things that we're going to have to, you're a Georgia fan over here in Georgia. We got really, to me, clearly Kirby's the heir apparent. This is the team to beat now, the Bulldogs.
Well, not necessarily. I think to a degree, yes, but I think that you have Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, who now is dominating the portal, and they are going to be a force to reckon with.
And they were good this year, too.
LSU will stick around. They're not going to go anywhere.
Kelly's a good coach.
OU can be sneaky. They can be. They have the potential to be. They did beat Texas last year. But I think the other team to beat is coming out of the West is going to be Texas. I mean, Sarkisian has got that team playing well.
Right.
But you can
lose 2 games now to make the playoff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that changes it for everybody. I think Georgia is the model team right now.
I completely agree with that.
So DeBoer's going to come into a league where you've got Kiffin, you've got Kirby, you've got Kelly, you got Sarkisian. These are all right. And there's some pretty good mid-level coaches too, like Stoops at Kentucky, and of course Missouri and Heupel at Tennessee. But Missouri was great this year. They could still be good.
They beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. That's not a scrubby team.
So suddenly, you're not gonna just have to beat Oregon. You're gonna and USC was not very good this year. The other good team was actually Arizona because Utah had all those injuries. So. And he's only got that 2-year track record. And then the other thing is, Patrick, that I worry about because I've seen it. I was at Indiana when Knight left, got fired, and I was at Florida when Spurrier left. It's really hard to replace a legend. And Saban is Bear. I mean,
he is.
I mean, so you got 2 Bears, and it didn't work out for a long time, almost 20 years before they had a decent coach, more than 20 years before they had a decent coach again. Although there were moments, when they were pretty good in those 20 years.
Well, I mean, he's in. Like his first SEC home game is against Kirby Smart.
Right.
Like those, and Georgia's coming in. I mean, this is the same. Like they're bringing back most of their players, a decent amount of players.
Right.
And those players, it doesn't matter if it was a Nick Saban, it's Alabama, and they want to beat him again because they got knocked out of the playoff this year, which they felt like they should have had a chance to.
I think Georgia was the best team. I just think that playoff system screwed up.
Yeah. But it's going to be a lot. I do think it was the best hire they could have made.
Yes.
On a quick note, Washington did go out and get a great hire in Arizona's coach. That guy, he's coached great.
They were 10-3 this year.
Yeah, they were a phenomenal team. So that'll be another they're not going to go anywhere. I think the Big Ten does not like losing him, but I think they found a good replacement, and that it's not like Washington's like, well, you're off the board now. I think overall, great hire.
Great hire, and so that's the one big thing that's happened in college football. The next one is, will Harbaugh go to the NFL? And if he goes to escape the whatever might come down with the sanctions, or hey, we've won it, and they've already had their 2 best players declare for the draft. Who knows what's going to happen?
All signs are pointing to him leaving.
That's right. I agree.
I think he's gone.
Yeah.
I think that he might just want to ride the tailwind of getting Michigan their first championship, and McCarthy's gone.
Right.
I think McCorum is going to be on his way out the door.
He's decided
not,
to leave too.
Like those guys are going to be out the door.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, he did a great job with the 49ers. He got to the Super Bowl, got beat by his brother. They're both wonderful coaches.
Yeah.
I think he wants the Ravens may be the best team this year. He wants to come back and beat his brother is probably.
Yeah.
It's a family affair with these guys.
It totally is.
And it's a great story too, because there was a time when everybody thought, Harbaugh's not going to make it. He can't beat Ohio State. He's going to get fired.
They were getting ready to kick him out of the program, and then he flipped a switch, and he didn't win the games that he needed to, but then he finally won the Rose Bowl. He finally
It's a little like Kirby's story. I mean, I still think Kirby's best team was the 2018 team that lost to Alabama on that last play. That was a great team. And, but I think Kirby learned a little bit there. He eventually started to beat Saban, won 2 in a row. I think he's going to win more. And I think the same. I mean, if Harbaugh stays, I think the same thing is going to happen. But I think he wants that NFL challenge. Also, you and I both know that no matter how well you get paid in college, if you're good in the NFL, you're going to pay a lot more.
You don't make the same money. Yeah. You don't. Every player's got their agents and stuff. You've got it's a totally different landscape. It's much easier to coach there. That's why Monken left Georgia. Yeah. That's why he left.
Monken will be a head coach eventually. There's no doubt in my mind.
He's a phenomenal coach. Yeah. So overall, to quickly wrap this up, Saban retires, a legendary career, and I think Alabama got their guy for the near future and stuff like that. I don't see him going anywhere. He's a winner. So now we'll see how it shakes out.
The SEC is going to still be great. Still going to be the best conference.
They'll be the power conference. Yeah. I kind of wish that they would do a Big Ten versus SEC kind of tournament and see who wins because,
that's what the playoffs are going to end up being probably.
They are.
Yeah.
So you're listening to the Sports Squad from Bell Ringer Phoenix Media. Next up on our segment today, we've got the Atlanta Falcons and the NFL just kind of all in one. So the Falcons head coach search continues. Kind of an update. They've interviewed a lot of candidates, but right now the biggest one that they have is Bill Belichick. They also came out with a report last night around 11:30 that they did announce they interviewed Jim Harbaugh for the coaching job. But I saw this morning on the Pat McAfee show, I was watching a clip from yesterday, that interview with Bill Belichick was 3.5 hours. And so what I was kind of picking up from them too is that, and for people who just kind of know the inside works of the NFL, Bill was the GM and the head coach.
Right.
And this is going to be one of those, and we were kind of talking about it a little bit before the show, this is going to be one of those where it's going to be Bill and the owner. We don't need all these other little chain pieces in between. He wants to be Bill and with that. And so what they were kind of describing on there, and I was learning about it too, was that this is not like speed dating as they referred it to. This is almost like a marriage, if you will. So this is don't be surprised if there's more and more interviews that take upwards of 3 hours because you have got to figure everything out.
Right.
Bill has come out and said that he wants a rostered but underachieving team, and right now the two of those, there's multiple different teams that are being thrown around. But if you were classifying the two, you're probably looking at the Atlanta Falcons or the Chargers. But the Chargers are looking at they're pointed towards Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
He's got ties over there. People are saying that he could go to the Eagles after their awful collapse at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens there. I don't really see the Eagles letting go of Sirianni. I think they just need to get some things straight.
Right.
He took them to the Super Bowl last year.
That's right.
And I think that everybody's like, oh, he's going to go to the Cowboys. I'm not buying that because of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the biggest problem for the Cowboys. I have no problem saying that.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick would never be able to get along with him.
I agree with that.
He's always in the media. He's got his own radio show that he's just constantly talking on. Bill doesn't want that type of culture.
Yeah.
And I think that Jerry Jones would not be able
Arthur
to handle.
Blank is not that kind of owner.
No, Arthur Blank will. I feel like he'll be like, if you want this, we've seen what you can do. You've got the keys, man.
Yeah, he'll give him the keys.
The Falcons are literally a quarterback away. I think that they're going to trade for Justin Fields. I think they're going to trade one of their first-round picks away for him, maybe, or maybe a couple second-rounders or something. But they're going to get. I think they're going to trade for him, and if you think about it from a sports world, can you imagine that storybook writing? He joins the team that he ended up beating in the Super Bowl from that deficit.
Yeah.
And now they open back up the debate of who's better, who can win without who, Belichick or Brady. Because that book's been kind of closed. Brady won that Super Bowl on a very, very talented roster, by the way.
That's true.
So we'll see.
Well, I like the chances of it happening. I think you're right. I think he would want that kind of challenge. The Falcons were close this year despite the coaching. And
they have such a talented roster. They just don't know how to use it. They have no idea how to
There's
use
not that much difference between them, New Orleans, and Tampa. And I think a good coach like Belichick could immediately get them. It's the easiest division to climb, I think.
Absolutely.
So I think it would be the right hire. Again, I think the question with Bill is, I do think he still wants to coach.
Yeah.
But
how long are you going to have him?
How long are you going to have him? Right.
We've been talking about that on our team on some of our easy runs. We've been discussing it, and I know that there's a whole lot of other coaches up for available.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll, I think, is going to stay in the building in Seattle. I think they're going to try and bring in Mike Vrabel.
Yeah. Which would be a good hire, too.
I think that would be a great hire.
Yeah.
Obviously, Harbaugh to the Chargers. I think that the Commanders they're not interested in Bill Belichick. I don't understand how you couldn't be.
Yeah.
He's the greatest coach of all time. So
well, the Commanders are still trying to figure some things out, post Snyder. So, but no, I think you're right, and this is big news if it happens for Falcon fans who, they suffered the worst Super Bowl loss ever and
have never recovered since.
And you're going to talk about the Cowboys in a minute, but at least the Cowboys have some Super Bowl titles. They just should never play Green Bay in the playoffs.
The Dallas Cowboys should just never play in the playoffs in general, which takes us to our next segment about the Super Wild Card Weekend takeaways. So Dallas falls at home yet again to Green Bay, who is 6-0 in Dallas. Green Bay absolutely owns the Dallas Cowboys at their place, which is crazy. I watched that game. That was the craziest blowout ever.
Yeah.
I mean, they came back in the second half, but it didn't matter. They were going to win. Yeah. So,
it's a long history too. I mean, when I was a little boy, in '66, the Green Bay Packers had to go down to Dallas. They played in the Cotton Bowl back then. It was a great game. It came down to literally the last play, and Robinson, the edge for the Packers, almost sacked Don Meredith, and Don Meredith threw it up in the air, and Green Bay intercepted in the end zone. That was the game. They won 35-31. The next year's Ice Bowl, which is the most famous game really in the history of the
Ice
NFL.
Bowl, everybody knows about that one.
And in that game, Green Bay scored 2 quick touchdowns, but then Starr, who is an Alabama guy, had a couple of they had one turnover with him and then a punt return turnover, and suddenly Dallas was back in the game, and then they threw Reeves, who was the coach for the Falcons, Dan Reeves threw this great pass to Lance Rensel for a tailback option pass for a touchdown. And Dallas went ahead, and it looked like they were going to win 17-14. And then Green Bay has this drive from heaven for them, and Starr does a quarterback sneak on the next to last play of the game with 16 seconds left. And really, that was like a harbinger. It's like the whole history between these two teams is, when they play in the playoffs, Green Bay wins no matter who the team is.
It is.
And we've gone through, Favre and Rodgers and now Love.
They've got Jordan Love.
And Love played great.
He's so good. He's a mirror image. I was texting some of my Packers friends who are diehard fans, and they are good.
Yeah.
So
and they're going to cause some problems, I think.
So Miami again in that really cold game in Kansas City falls to a team who is over 500. I don't know if you've seen that stat, but Miami is not very good versus teams over 500.
Right.
The Mahomes magic was there yet again.
Right.
So
he played great.
Yeah. Travis Kelce played pretty good, but I think that wide receiver, number 4, I forgot his name, but the new and upcoming rookie wide receiver, he played really well too.
Yeah.
Texans send the Browns packing back to Cleveland as Joe Flacco runs out.
What a game for the Texans.
You got to watch. Texans, those are going to be a sleeper team to get out of the AFC, and we'll get to that one here in a minute.
And a good young quarterback makes all the difference.
That is a great team.
Yeah. Great
young quarterback, great edger and Will Anderson. I mean, that coach, D'Amico Ryan, he's got that team playing great ball, hard, good football, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with because, I mean, you got to watch out for them. They're playing.
And everybody talks about Dallas, but, the whole state of Texas loves football. And boy, Houston would love to have this go.
Oh, yeah.
Go. And it could last a long time for them.
It can. I think it will.
Yeah.
So the Lions win an absolute thriller game against the Rams at home. There's a lot of stories
best
around
game
that.
So far.
That was the best one by far on the weekend with Jared Goff playing his old team, Matt Stafford coming back playing his old team. I thought that was a great game.
Yeah.
I think the Lions are going to make a great run. We'll see.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that one later. But I thought that was a great game. I really enjoyed staying up to watch that one.
Yeah.
On Monday, due to weather and all the snow they're having up in Buffalo, Bills came out strong against a tough, well-coached Steelers team. I mean, that Steelers team was without T.J. Watt, and he plays a very big factor on that team. But I thought they played really well. Josh Allen played out of his mind again.
Yeah. That run, that was unbelievable.
Oh, that was great. And that Bills team is a totally different team now that they got rid of that old offensive coordinator. Their interim one, he's doing a great job with that team.
They've got their confidence back. And they certainly, when they have their confidence, they're one of the top teams in the league.
And then to wrap up Monday night on ESPN football, the Buccaneers throttled the Eagles as they are finally put out of their misery and their awful end of season collapse. I mean, that was... I knew it was over before the game even started when they put Baker Mayfield on ESPN with smelling salts. And I was like, oh, it's over. And what happened? Yeah. They lost 35-9.
Well, let's go back to Mayfield. I want to go back to that 2018 Rose Bowl, which I still think is one of the greatest college games I've ever seen.
Oh, my gosh, don't even.
And, either team could have won, but the Bulldogs pulled it out in the fourth quarter. Mayfield's one of those guys I think a lot of us thought he would be a star in the NFL, and it just hadn't happened. But finally, He's held in there. He got in the right place, and
he had some magic in the Browns.
He did for a while.
He did, and he was all right up there. But it's the Browns. They gave up, and then they traded him to Carolina, which is like getting traded to the dumps.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing there, so that really wasn't even fair to him. And then they got him to L.A., which I think was the right stepping stone with Sean McVay and allowing him to just play his style of ball. And then he finally, Buccaneers bring him in to compete with Kyle Trask. He wins the job, and he takes him to an NFC South title division, wild card win. And
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So
by the way, Kyle Trask, a Gator who, of course, is the only Gator to beat Georgia in the last.
He's not bad.
He's not bad at all.
Terrible.
And when he was at Florida, he played behind the starting quarterback for like 5 years, and finally got his chance in the COVID year. It's kind of been the fate of his life, but he is good.
He is.
And that probably is not a bad thing, because I think it's really important to have a good backup quarterback. And if he's the backup, that's okay.
Well,
I think he can handle it.
the competition's only making him better.
That's right.
Baker's not a scrub or anything.
That's absolutely right.
Quick segment here. We're going to do this for the rest of the football season, and then we'll just kind of phase out of it. We got called Quick Picks for the upcoming divisional round. Just make a quick pick and a statement. Texans-Ravens.
I'm going to go with the Ravens 27-17. You didn't ask for a score, but I'm going to give one. 27-17. Just enough Lamar Jackson, just enough defense. This is one I don't feel totally confident about, even though I put a 10-point spread. I like the Texans, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won. But I do think right now the Ravens are the best team. But then I also don't like taking a weekend off, as we saw in baseball. So we don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to take
the Texans in this one. What? I think they go into Baltimore after taking a week off. Lamar Jackson's never been super great in the playoffs. This is something that would really help cement his MVP candidacy. But I think the Texans go on there with an upset. They've been playing consistent, great football. I take them to win by 3. Next one, Packers versus 49ers.
I really hate to go against Jordan Love, but I'm going to pick the 49ers 28-24. I just think they have just enough to get it done. Now, who's the better quarterback? Obviously, I think Love is over Purdy, but Purdy's had a pretty good season.
He has. Purdy's just got a lot more weapons.
He's got more weapons, definitely.
But the Packers aren't playing scrub ball. I'm going to go with the 49ers as well as on this one. I think they win this game by about 10. I think it's close up until kind of the end of the fourth quarter. And I
think this is one of those places where the Packers don't tend to play well in San Francisco. Yeah. If this game was in Green Bay, which of course it's not going to be, I might feel differently. But I think it's going to be the 49ers.
Buccaneers Lions. That's going to be a really good matchup. I think these are both two teams that can easily compete with each other.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions. I think they'll score enough. I think it'll be a high-scoring game.
Yep, I agree. I'm going to take the Lions well with this one. I think that the Buccaneers' magic just fall short, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Buccaneers do come out with the upset on this. They're playing great ball right now.
They are.
They have good weapons on offense. I wouldn't be surprised, especially with the way that the Rams played them with their wide receivers, with Puka and Nakua and stuff.
Yeah.
Mike Evans is better than him.
Yeah.
And he's playing phenomenal ball.
Yeah, I agree.
Last one to round out. I think the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl, regardless, Chiefs versus Bills.
I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think they've got their mojo going. I agree with you. This very well could be the Super Bowl. Especially if the Ravens lose. If the Ravens keep winning, I think the Ravens are going to win it all. But the Ravens haven't won it since they beat Jim Harbaugh and the 49ers. But this should be the best game of the weekend. I'm going to go with Bills 35-31. I think both quarterbacks are going to put on a great show. It's going to come down to one play. It could come down to a turnover, or a key play on the special teams. I noticed that with these cold weather things and the wind from these fronts, these Arctic fronts, point afters were not gimmies. And it could be something like that. It could be somebody wins 31-30 because they missed an extra point.
And they both have 2 good kickers.
They do
Tyler
both
Bass
have good kickers.
And Harrison Butker both great.
But you never know.
No,
and
I'm taking the Bills. They finally have an at-home game against the Chiefs.
Right.
I think this is the third time. I think this is where they take it.
But I would say, I'm not Vegas, but I would say it's hard to bet against Mahomes ever in a playoff game.
Okay, so you are listening to the Sports Squad from Bell Ringer Phoenix Media. Last segment to round out very quick. As we know, we had it last week. We're bringing it back again. Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
First one is Buffalo Bills will finally beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs at home in the divisional.
Well, I got to stick with my predictions, so I'll say yes.
Yep, I'm going to stick with yes, too.
Okay.
Number 2, Kalen DeBoer will win a national championship within his first 5 years at Alabama. I looked at the stat line when I did this. I gave Kirby Smart 5 years, too, so and Sark took his team to the playoffs in the first couple years too. So I think 5 years is a reasonable time.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, and I'm being pessimistic. I think he can get it done. The thing is, if he goes 10-3 and doesn't make the playoffs any of the first 2 years, suddenly these Alabama fans are going to go crazy. And that's we know it, just in general, good SEC teams face the coaches just don't get as much rope. So
I'm going to go with maybe. I think that they might make a run at it, might maybe get close to it or even to it. Yeah. And we'll see how that team is there. But I'm going to go with a maybe. I think he's a great coach.
And I lean between no and maybe, because the maybe side of me is like the 12-team playoff, he's going to have a chance, I think. So, but I just don't. There's just not been a great track record for following legends, and again, it took a long time to replace Bear.
All right, Bill Belichick will be the Falcons head coach next year.
I'm going to say maybe, although I'm leaning more toward yes. I think it makes the most sense to me for both teams. I agree with you. They got to get a quarterback. I think if you get Belichick, you'll get a quarterback. And it could be Justin Fields, who would come home. I think suddenly the Falcons have a chance to win their division.
Yep, I'm going to go with yes on that one. All signs are pointing towards there just from reports and stuff like that. I think it would be the best fit. And then the last one, AU basketball, both men's and women's on both sides, will sweep basketball down in Flagler this weekend or today.
All right, that one's I'm going to say maybe with the lean toward yes, because the women I think will win. I think the men have a good chance. I think it's going to be another close game like Columbus State, like USC Beaufort. I'll go with yes.
I'm going to go with yes as that one. I got confidence in them coming off that loss. Girls staying hot, the men coming off the loss, I think are going to get a couple things right, especially with Dip just laying into in practice the other week too. So I'm going to go with yes on that one. And then you had something you wanted to briefly mention very quickly as we wrap up our show.
We had the 50th anniversary of Title IX last year, and we really never did a good job of talking about its history. But I do want to mention Tara VanDerveer, the coach at Stanford, the women's basketball coach at Stanford. We are only 70 miles away from the best women's basketball program in the country in South Carolina, but probably the second best right now, although clearly UConn's always close, is Stanford. And Tara VanDerveer has won 1,201 games. She surpassed Pat Head Summit earlier in the season for the all-time number wins for women's coaches, women's basketball coaches. She only needs two more to tie Mike Krzyzewski, 3, I believe, to be the all-time winningest coach for men or women. And I just want to give a brief anecdote. I went to Indiana, and I heard this anecdote a lot when I was there. She played at IU and back in the early 80s, and I believe she took Coach Knight, Coach Bob Knight taught a class in coaching almost his entire time, 29 years there. Right. And I think she took it, and he told the class one day, anybody wants to come to practice, you can come, otherwise it's closed. And she took him up on it, and she kept coming every day, taking notes. And they became pretty close friends. And she says, even to today, that Coach Knight's philosophy of practice really was a very big part of her coaching philosophy. Knight believed in, because he coached at Army, he didn't have much time with the athletes. He believed in a practice that went boom, 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 boom. There was like no downtime. And she believes the same thing. You got to take advantage. A good practice should only be 90 minutes to 2 hours, but it's basically nonstop. I've seen Rick Barnes. He's the same way when he was at Clemson. So good luck to Tara. She's done a great job. They've had some wonderful teams just in the last few years. Don't think they're good enough to beat South Carolina this year. I don't know if anybody is.
Yeah, they routed Kentucky the other day. I saw that one.
They are
good.
Awfully good. And, someday we got to take this show up to Columbia and interview her because she is the greatest coach in women's basketball right now. But anyway, good luck to Tara, and what a great career, 45 seasons. Yep, that's amazing.
That's amazing. You don't see that going around. Thank you for listening today. Thanks to our panelist, Dr. Bulla. We'll be back next week with another episode. The Sports Squad is a production of Bell Ringer Phoenix Media. Jasmine Garcia is the TVC Lab coordinator and producer. Brianna Law is the assistant producer. And Dr. David Bulla, who was our panelist today, is the coordinating producer. So thank you guys for all your help. We are coming to you from the TVC Lab and University Hall on the Summerville campus of Augusta University. The opinions stated here are those of the individuals and not Augusta University. You can find us at aubellringer.com, on the Augusta Press website, on Spotify, and on social media. Please send your comments to bellringerproduction@gmail.com. Have a great day and listen again soon. This is Patrick Motes saying so long. Back at you next week. We're out.